I'm doing this review as a vampire. This, this is the skin of a killer. I'm a soulless monster. No, I'm just kidding. Alright, so this is the start of another marathon for me. I am marathoning a series of reviews of the Twilight movies. You know, I was kind of complaining about towards the end of the Star Wars marathon about being kind of tired of Star Wars. I would go back to Star Wars any day of the week rather than do the Twilight movies. Because the thing with these movies is that no matter how popular they are, um, no matter how no matter how many times you see them, you can always find something bad that you missed before. You can always find something new to complain about when you're watching it again. And the stuff that you previously complained about is going to seem like all the more of a blemish on such a fantastic piece of filmmaking. This Okay, I might as well just start at the beginning. What better place is there to start than at the beginning? So, the series revolves around this sociopathic, dead-eyed, buck-toothed teenager named Bella Swan, played by Kristen Stewart, who moves to Forks, Washington, and she comes into contact with a family of vampires. I hesitate to call them vampires because these vampires are not like Dracula or Nosferatu. These vampires, while they do retain their tendency to drink blood, these vampires have eyes that change color. They sparkle in the sunlight, like they're made of crystal or granite or something. Um, they they have super strength. And they're just really. And this particular family of vampires survives on the blood of animals. Because if they ate people, that might actually be kind of interesting. No, they survive on the blood of animals, being calling themselves vegetarians. I'm not even going to comment on the stupidity of that. Like, we only eat animals instead of humans, so that makes us vegetarians. I can buy that as just a figure of speech. Fine. Have your goofy name for it, whatever. Okay, so I already reviewed The Host, and I mentioned that The Host is better than any, or is not better, is worse than any of the Twilight movies. But that does not mean that these Twilight movies are good. That does not mean that they are watchable by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, there are some people out there who find them enjoyably bad. Kind of like Dungeons and Dragons. How I find that to be enjoyably bad, or Batman and Robin. Those are movies that I get a kick out of watching because of how atrocious they are. Twilight, it's just this, for me anyway, it's just this never-ending stream of boredom, unlikable characters, uninteresting dialogue, and I can't really get much enjoyment out of it, especially being a casual, or yeah, a casual fan of vampires. I mean, my favorite classic horror movie monster is Dracula. Um, so so he There are a bunch of problems with this movie, and let's start with the fundamentals. The acting. Okay, no, that's we have to go even deeper than that. The story, the premise, the setup. Bella Swan as a character, at least how she starts out in this movie, is just boring. She is so boring, and the reason for this is because she is just this mopey, whiny teenager who recites poetry to herself or something, and she acts all world weary when she's 17. And she has no reason to do this. Absolutely no reason to act this way. Her parents have previously gone through a divorce, and she has to go live with her dad while her mom goes to travel around with her stepdad. She's moving to a new school in Forks, Washington, which is apparently very different than Arizona. They're filmed basically the same in this movie. They have the exact same lighting, so I don't really know. Whatever. So at Forks, Washington, she is welcomed by nearly everyone in the school. Everyone in the school knows her name. Everyone in the school knows that she comes from Arizona. Everyone is keen to include her, or seemingly everyone. Like the girls instantly want to be her friends. The guys instantly want to get in a relationship with her. They welcome her with completely open arms. Her dad gives her a new truck as a quote-unquote homecoming gift, even though she hasn't been there in over a decade. They say in the movie. So, and for some reason, she's also got these friends on an Indian reservation. Who will openly do favors for her, and she doesn't have any kind of aside from the awkward small talk, she doesn't have any kind of animosity towards her dad. I mean, her dad is constantly bending over backwards to try and please her, to try and connect with her. So this girl has virtually no problems at all, and yet she is still this really emo, mopey chick who just does not want anything to do with all of these people. She comes off as just so ungrateful and so self-absorbed. She is so pretentious in this movie. She is so stuck up. I can't imagine, because I think that you're supposed to buy her as this misunderstood outcast, but like I said, it comes off more like she's just a whiner just for the sake of getting attention. She is just acting out some teenage episode. So that's why she does not work as a protagonist, because when she is not unlikable, she is just boring, and the acting is just lousy all around. I can only think of one performance in this movie that I actually kind of like, and that's Billy Burke as the dad, as her police chief dad. He's this kind of cross between Jesse Stone and the Brawny Man, and he actually seems like a really cool guy. I want a movie about this guy. He has personality. He has charisma. He is constantly. He's trying to be with his daughter while at the same time struggling with his police work. There should be a movie about this guy. And his daughter constantly keeps secrets from him. And Billy Burke is really slumming at being in these Twilight movies. Maybe you could chalk it up to just being a paycheck, where maybe he's just willing to accept any work that comes his way, but he is way too good to be in this movie. Jeez, he should be in like a Coen Brothers movie or something. Something to make better use of his talents. Although I've heard that he was recently cast on that NBC, I think it's NBC, the Revolution thing, so at least he's getting work outside of this turd of a franchise. So he's probably the only likable character. He's probably the only performance that's good. He can be funny. He can be sarcastic. he's the only sympathetic character in the whole movie. The only one. Everyone else is just okay. Kristen Stewart, I still maintain, cannot act to save her life. She cannot act her way out of a plastic bag because her performance in this movie, I kid you not, is just her stuttering and going like maybe we can I just don't do you know how annoying that is? I mean, I get that she's supposed to be an everyday teenager, but there's some things that translate well to film, and there are some things that don't. This twitchy, whiny, pretentious little emo chick, like I said, does not work as the protagonist, and she is not made any more likable by Kristen Stewart. And Robert Pattinson, who I've seen give good performances before, like in Water for Elephants and Harry Potter 4, he is actually capable of acting. Kristen Stewart is not capable of acting. Robert Pattinson is. I don't know what he's doing in this movie. He's no Tim Roth, but he can be decent. But he's terrible too. He's terrible too because his performance, the whole movie is just kind of going like, when the romance first starts out, it's literally just that, them just staring at each other, him going like this, and her going like, and then it proceeds to awkward small talk that has no point, does not carry any passion with it, and does not advance anything. It is completely unnecessary. It is completely uninteresting. So it goes on like this, and once she actually discovers that he's a vampire, don't know what could have tipped you off. All they talk about is just how much they love each other and they have to keep each other safe, and how much they love each other again, and what risks there are to or what could prevent them from loving each other, but what if she turns into a vampire? What if she doesn't? What if but they just love each other so much, and it's just that. It's just that for the entire movie. It's just that in the entire movie, mixed in with more stupid, pointless small talk. So watching this, I'm thinking, this is the romance that has captured the attention of thousands of teenage girls and adult women. I just could not understand it. I still don't understand it. Okay, let's further examine why this romance is not interesting. What does Bella find attractive about Edward Cullen in terms of his personality? I don't know. I mean, really, the only conclusion I can come to as to why she would be attracted to this guy is because he looks nice. Okay, let's turn this around. What does Edward find attractive about Bella in terms of her personality? I can't think of anything. I can't. I mean, is it her twitchiness? I mean, really, the only indication we get is her. She smells nice because of her blood. I mean, he says like I've never wanted a human's blood more than I've wanted yours. You're like my own personal heroine. That so their romance is based on his restraint. Their romance is based on his not eating her. That seems like the foundations for any solid romance. I mean, roll up the shotgun wedding. It's phenomenal how removed from audience interest this romance is. How fundamentally flawed and just uninteresting it is from the very beginning. They seem to get every step wrong because Kristen Stewart and Robert Pattinson have no chemistry. They do not make any kind of interesting conversation. They do not talk about anything other than the fact that they love each other, because that's really the only time that you sense any kind of investment in them. Whenever they talk about something else like the weather or why she's in Forks, you can tell that neither of them give a crap. They just want to make out. What else about this movie that really pissed me off? None of the other actors do any better. I mean the vampire family, Edward's. Edward's. They're not related to him by blood. They were just all turned into vampires by the same guy, and they're living under his roof for some reason. I mean, you'd think they would resent him for that, but no. They're all just bland, boring, and very devoid of any personality. And those of them that do have personality are just unlikable and weird. Like I can't even remember some of their names. The blonde vampire, she's very resentful for some reason. The short-haired chick with the pixie cut, Alice, she was all right, I guess. I mean, just in terms of adding some semblance of energy and emotion to the scenes that she was in, but she's in very little of the movie. She barely gets to talk. It's and the patriarch, Carlisle. He looks like Fred from Scooby-Doo. He's this really fey, bland vampire guy, but at least he's not as unlikable as some members of his family. And at least he smiles. At least he shows that tiny little bit of personality. I mean, Edward, he just looks nauseous half the time. Oh my God, I'm struggling to come up with words because this movie just leaves that little of an impact on you. This movie is just that transparent. These characters are that shallow. The writing just lacks that much substance. Speaking of the writing, the whole situation between the vampires living in Forks does not make any sense. It makes no sense because apparently they have a treaty with the Indians, the Native Americans. I want to use the politically correct term. So apparently they have a truce with them, but at the same time they're very resentful. And I have to ask the question, why don't the Cullens move away? Because this whole thing could be easily resolved if they just move somewhere else. because they're all concerned about Edward being attracted to Bella, or unnecessarily interacting with Bella, threatening to expose their secret, blah 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 blah. They're worried about these other evil vampires in the area. They're worried about they're worried about they're worrying about coming into conflict with the Native Americans. All of these problems could be solved if they just go seclude themselves in a castle like vampires are supposed to do, or at the very least, move to another state. Do you really have to live in Forks? Do you really have to settle into this place? Is it just that sacred to you? Is it just that? Is this land just that holy to you, or unholy, being vampires? I don't know. But any application of common sense seems to be completely foreign to these characters. And here's the thing. It takes forever for something to actually happen in this movie. This movie goes through about half an hour to 40 minutes where Bella has barely had any interaction with Edward. She's just kind of awkwardly twitching her way through the school, and having these really boring interactions with her peers, who are equally or not equally, who are just stereotypical high school people, except friendlier, without the drinking, without the smoking, without any of the behavior that would be deemed too risque for this film's target audience. I mean, when I was looking at this high school, I was like, where are the crackheads? Where are the smokers? Where are the drugs? This has got to be the nicest, cleanest high school I've ever seen. But I guess that's nitpicking. I mean, compared to all the other problems in this movie. But when you don't have a plot for about 40 minutes, you really have to question the stuff that was there and its necessity to be there. And when the plot actually does kick in, it's just, like I said, it's just so uninteresting and so poorly executed that the casual viewer will easily be bored out of their mind. I mean, anyone who is not a diehard fan of this will be bored out of their skull. They will be itching to get up and just leave. They will be itching to turn the movie off. This movie blatantly, I still maintain this belief. This movie blatantly tries repeatedly to get you to turn it off with awkward teen small talk, with boring as hell characters, with no story, with its complete sacrilege of what vampires are supposed to be. I'm all for seeing a type of character or a creature in a new light, but when you strip away nearly everything that makes vampires scary, and nearly everything that makes them foreboding, you just end up with Twilight. You just end up with vampires seeming like a joke. I mean, vampires do not die in the sun, apparently. They sparkle. They sparkle like bedazzlers. Vampires do not have fangs. They just and they can choose not to drink human blood. They can choose to drink animal blood. They can apparently control themselves enough to go to public school repeatedly, and moving whenever the question is raised, why aren't you aging? So eventually, after what feels like 3 hours, the quote-unquote villains show up, and it's this random group of really fruity vampires who are not the least bit intimidating. There are three of them. There's this there's this Jamaican guy with the really low cut shirt and these dreadlocks. There's this snarky redhead, Rochelle. We're trying to think of the actress's name. Rochelle Lefevre, or I I really want to learn her name because she's actually a decent actress, and she's stuck doing this. God, she was god awful too. And then there's her mate, James, the frightening vampire James, who's this very just, oh my God, is this guy not the least bit imposing? He's got this blonde ponytail. He's got this baby face. He kind of smiles all the time. He's got this smirk going on. He's honestly like an elementary school kid more than a scary vampire. And without any, against all common sense, he goes after Bella alone, knowing full well that if she comes to any harm, then the other vampires, the Cullen family, will come and rip him apart. But he does this anyway, and this culminates in the film's final battle, which is just a huge anticlimax because James dies without much of a fight. I mean, they all gang up on him like they should and rip him apart and burn the pieces. And the Jamaican guy, the Jamaican vampire, just kind of says he actually helps them. He actually helps them find the guy. So he just kind of pisses off, and the redhead vampire she kind of does this thing where, like, I will kill these guys. They killed my boyfriend, who I only had one scene with. These villains are not the least bit imposing. They're not the least bit interesting. They are so cartoonish. It's like the last minute. It's like halfway through the film suddenly decided, oops, we need some sort of antagonist because nothing is happening. Nothing antagonistic is happening to the protagonists. I use the term protagonist very loosely because, like I said, these characters are not likable. These characters are not interesting. They're just so dull, flat, listless, lifeless. What other adjectives can I use to describe these guys that I haven't already? This movie is every bit the self-indulgent, angsty teenage romance story that you would expect. It is every bit the really crappy story that the teen readers fell in love with, and anyone in their sane minds absolutely despised. This is just a very stupid, very cartoonish, very forgettable movie. I mean, the only thing that is remotely memorable is their complete desecration of vampire lore. How Stephanie Meyer, the author of this, if there's anything you will remember about this movie, it is the spite that you feel towards the author, Stephanie Meyer, for taking a steaming dump over what vampires, over the terror and the atmosphere and the respect that vampires have been treated with in the past. I can't believe our teen culture spawned this. That's a lie. Yes, I can. The teens the teen culture today sucks. The teen culture has crappy music. The teen culture has if this is any indication, the teen culture has crappy movies. Where are the days of good book adaptations? Harry Potter, there was this real ongoing thing when these movies were coming out about, like, which is better, Harry Potter or Twilight? There's no contest. It's Harry Potter. Because Harry Potter, even if you don't like them, you can't deny that those movies had actual acting. Those movies had actual conflict. Those movies had actual stories. They had an interesting world. They had likable characters. They had decent effects. Oh my God, the effects in this movie. Okay. Apparently, vampires have super speed. They like at a millisecond's notice, they can zip towards something with like they're the Flash. So Edward carries Bella via piggyback through the woods, and it honestly really looks like he's on wires. It does not look like. It looks like he's running up a mountain when he's doing this. It looks like he has completely even footing. It looks like he is both on a wire and a conveyor belt. It does not look like he's having the least bit of trouble trekking up this mountain. He's running up it in a straight line. He's running up it without any kind of bumps. He's not digging his feet into the ground at all. It looks so fake. Oh, geez, does it look fake? It looks terrible. And when he's climbing up the trees, he's not even grabbing onto the tree as he's climbing up it. He just kind of touches the tree and this magically propels him up. You couldn't have gotten a better effect. You could not have. You honestly did not. Did you honestly look at this, makers of this movie? Did you honestly look at this and say, "Yeah, people will buy that. That does not look stupid in the least"? Because you screwed up. You screwed up effects-wise. You screwed up story-wise. This movie is a train wreck. Nothing happens. This movie sports a completely interesting romance, a whole slew of uninteresting, lifeless characters. Like I said, the acting is not good in this movie. I stand by that statement because the acting is not good at all. Everyone in this movie, all the major characters behave like lifeless zombies. You can't like any of them because almost none of them have any personality to speak of, at least not in the way of their acting. And the movie keeps telling us to care about these characters, and we don't, because we never see anything. We never see any kind of depth. We never see any kind of genuine emotion in them. We never see anything beneath their pale, vacant stares. The supposed regular characters in this movie are portrayed as not realistic in the least. They are portrayed as way too nice. They are portrayed as way too welcoming. They are portrayed as not believable at all. What attracts everyone in the movie? What encourages everyone to rally around this pale, vacant-eyed emo chick? Why does everyone like her? Why does anyone like her? Why does everyone in the movie go out of their way, take their own time to try and please this depressing wench? I can't understand it. This has been kind of an incoherent rant, but I'm sorry, that's all I can fall back on. And like I said, I have not covered everything wrong with this movie. The music, stupid, god-awful, overly stylized. The soundtrack, I mean, the score, like I said, is overly stylized. Um, uh, the soundtrack, they pick some of the worst. They pick some of the worst teen pop songs that I've ever heard in my life. They the lighting, everything looks like it's on a rainy day. Even when the sun is supposed to be shining and it's supposed to be really to be really bright by comparison, everything looks like a really foggy day. There is no color in this movie. Why is there no color? Is this some kind of atmospheric or stylistic choice? Because when you don't have any life in the characters, sucking all the life out of the film and the images that you're seeing on screen just makes for that much more of a boring viewing experience. This movie sucked. Oh jeez, this movie sucked. I can't I can't stand it. I got four more of these things. Four more of these movies. I haven't seen them since they came out. I hope, you know what? Maybe they've gotten better with time. Maybe they've aged remarkably well. Maybe this was an unfortunate first attempt. Maybe this was kind of a failed experiment, and they are just setting it up to amaze us with the sequels. But I am not holding my breath.